YouTube recording. So welcome everyone to the Catalyze SV and Cupertino for All meeting. Uh, it's the Catalyze SV Project Advocacy Committee meeting, our monthly
YouTube
meeting
recording.
to
So,
score
welcome
projects.
everyone.
Sorry about that. So we want to thank everyone for joining us. We're really grateful to be here. We're live on YouTube right now, and we'll have a recording up of this meeting afterwards. So we'll be here for 2 hours. The first part of our meeting will involve the presentation from the development team. Then we'll go to questions based on the 7 criteria of our scorecard. And finally, we'll score the project both as Catalyze SV members and Cupertino for All members together. So let's go ahead and start with introductions. We'll have the project team introduce themselves at the end. So let's just start with Cupertino for All, and then we'll go to Catalyze SV members. And everyone, if you could just say your name and the community or neighborhood in which you live, that would be great. I will start. My name is Alex Shore. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Catalyze SV, and I live near Diridon Station in San Jose. And Jean or Yvonne, if you could help me walk through the Cupertino for All members, that would be great, and maybe call on them.
Yvonne, you're muted. Okay.
I'm Yvonne Thorstensen and with Cupertino for All, and I live in the Monte Vista South neighborhood. Jean, you want to try?
I'm Jean Bedord, and I'm in the Monte Vista area of Cupertino, and I also publish an email newsletter called Cupertino Matters.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Debbie Timmers. I'm from the Inspiration Heights part of Cupertino, and I'm also in Rotary, so I know this from both aspects.
Any other Cupertino for All folks here?
We've got someone who had just asked for the link, so he should be coming. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Great. Well, let's go to some Catalyze SV folks. Let's start with Chris, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So my name is Chris. Been with Catalyze SV coming on 2 years now. Joined back in March 2024. Reason I joined is I've taken a lot of classes in urban planning at San Jose State. So this just related to advancing a lot of what I've learned and also looking where can I get involved. And yeah, currently at my parents' place up in the East Bay, but I have a lot of San Jose connections via San Jose State and Catalyze SV, so most familiar with like the downtown kind of area up north. Of there is, what I'm most familiar with. So yeah.
Great. Let's go to Ryan Karubin.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Ryan Karubin. Been a member of KLI's SV since around 2017 now when I was in school at San Jose State getting my master's of urban planning and decided to join, listen in on interesting affordable housing projects over the years, and happy to listen in on this exciting Eden housing project with Andrea. Hey, Andrea.
Great. Let's go to Daphne.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I think this is the third project I've sat in on, but I live in Los Altos.
Great. Blanca, do you want to say hello?
Hi, this is Blanca.
I'm sorry for before the noise. Yeah, I'm living in Morgan Hill, and that is the tour project. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Blanca. Anyone else who is joining us as a visitor or is from one of the organizations and didn't have a chance to introduce themselves yet? Now is the time.
I can say hello. I'm Allison Singalani. I'm the Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. And I think we are adjacent to just about every other organization on this call. Lots of amazing partners here. So really pleased to be here and learn more about the project and how we can support.
Wonderful. And looks like we've got some folks who are participating in a way remotely through note taking. Unati, I think, is one of those, so may not be on the call right now. And then do we have a Philip? Is that a Cupertino for All member?
Yes.
Philip, would you like to say hello?
And
This is Phil with Cupertino for All, and I'm happy to be.
Great. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for everyone in the community for being here. Excited. This is our first time to have these two organizations in a virtual room together scoring a project, so really excited about it. We are active on other projects as well, and there is an update that I wanted to share before we get into the main event, which is many of you would have received an action alert from us yesterday about a proposed Chick-fil-A on West San Carlos and Ray Street in Midtown San Jose. Our members decided this is not the kind of project that they want to see, and so we sent out an action alert yesterday for a vote next week of the City Council, encouraging folks to write in and share their opinions or show up at the council meeting. And our position of our organization has been we would like to see a mixed-use, multi-story housing project on the site, not a single-story car-centric Chick-fil-A in an urban village. So encourage everyone to weigh in on that before Tuesday's city council meeting or at Tuesday's city council meeting. So more project updates to come on other projects in the future. In the meantime, let's go to the main event, and I will turn it over to whoever on your side of the show is going to shepherd this forward. And feel free to introduce the entire project team before you start presenting. That would be great.
Great. So I'm Andrea Osgood, Chief of Real Estate for Eden Housing, and really thrilled to be here tonight with our partners, the Santa Clara County, and then of course for our architect team as well. There'll be points where each of those individuals that are here will introduce themselves. So I'll just kind of get us started, and we'll do individual introductions as we go along. But just really thrilled that we're all here together tonight to talk about the mixed income educator workforce housing project in Cupertino over at Wolfe Road. And if we want to go on to the next slide, we can do that. We're going to do some introductions, then we're going to overview where the project is right now and the process moving forward. Also talk a lot about what we've heard in our community outreach so far and how we've changed the design through that. And then talk about, of course, next steps, and then end with Q&A. So you can keep your questions, as we talked about earlier, till the end, because we're hoping that the very detailed presentation that we have here will address many of those that come along. So we can go to the next slide. I just want to note here that we do have some folks from the county. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves directly, but we're always thrilled to partner with the county, and we have several deals, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I don't know, Emily, Natalie, did you want to say hi?
Thanks, Andrea. Natalie Monk. I'm the Housing and Community Development Manager for the county's Office of Supportive Housing. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I'll pass it to Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Chen, and as the slide shows, I work on housing development specifically on county control property. So really, we're so excited about this project. It's, as you can see, so many groups have come together to really make this project successful. Hopefully it keeps progressing.
Great, thank you both. So we can go to the next slide where I'll talk a little bit about Eden. And I'm happy to be here tonight, but Jared, who's really been working on this for us for a long time, unfortunately could not be here today, but we're happy for him because baby number 2 just arrived. So mom and Jared are home with Tyler. So congrats to him. But so I'm here. I've been with Eden Housing for 17 years now. And Eden is a nonprofit, and we do work all over California. We have built over 12,000 homes across the state in our nearly 57-year history, many of which are in the Santa Clara County area, and we have been lucky enough to have been selected as a partner from the County of Santa Clara other times. So you may have heard of a couple of projects that we finished recently, also in partnership with the county. So Solaire Apartments over in the Diridon Station area, also La Avenida and Mountain View, and coming soon, and we're leasing up right now, is Mitchell Park, also in partnership with Fora. Actually, a couple of those other ones we're also in partnership with Fora. But we're doing lease up for Mitchell Park right now, so that's in Palo Alto. So please check out our website. We're always happy to be in partnership with folks. There's a little bit more about us, but I just want to say that Eden got its start from a group of volunteers 57 years ago. So it's really thrilling to see so many people who care about their community and want to see critical housing projects move forward. So thank you for your volunteerism. It does make a difference. Okay, so next slide, I think, is where I hand it over to Sarah. So Sarah, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. I'm Sarah Vaccaro, principal with Architects Fora and Engage Fora. Nicole is here with me. I'll give her a chance to introduce herself real quick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Little. I'm a designer at Fora. I also am our community engagement lead and specialize in visual storytelling.
Awesome. So a little bit about Fora. We specialize in housing. We believe in the power of design to create more beautiful, sustainable, and restorative living environments for all. We are a multifaceted practice. We have an architectural side as well as a community engagement side, and we were lucky enough to be selected alongside Eden Housing by the county to lead both of those efforts on this project. And I think because we were able to work hand in hand between our two sides of the firm, it really allowed for a streamlined process as well as a really rich process that led to the great design we have here today. Here are a few images of some of our work. Solaire is in the top kind of middle right that Andrea just spoke about, as well as Mitchell Park's on the top left there. So a lot of work throughout Santa Clara County and specifically San Jose. Engagement-wise, we work across many different counties and really do a span or provide a span of services and types of engagement. We'll share a lot about that tonight. And just to know, I'm a Bay Area native as well. So I grew up going to Valco Mall. So this site is very near and dear to my heart, and we're excited to be a part of this project. Okay, we'll start with an overview of the project and our process. So as you are all likely very familiar with the site, our Wolfe Road Educator Workforce Housing site is just north of the Rise or the former Valco Mall. It's bounded by the Portal neighborhood to the east, by I-280 to the north, as well as the I-280 off-ramp is along our whole eastern boundary. And we have a little bit of frontage along Wolfe Road. Really great central site within Cupertino. As this graphic shows, the site is vibrant in a high opportunity neighborhood and in a neighborhood that's in transformation right now, which is really exciting to be a part of. We have access for our residents to 280, North Wolfe Road, and other major city arterial roads. We have commercial office space to the north and to the east, retail and mixed use to the south, and then single family residential neighborhoods as well as schools to the west. Okay. Between the city of Cupertino and the county of Santa Clara, this project has a very strong foundation in terms of its project's goals and vision. The city rezoned this site to have a minimum density of 50 dwelling units per acre on this 5-acre parcel that calculates out to 250 minimum units to be built on this site. We will be providing a variety of apartment sizes and types. We'll share more about that through our community engagement process input and how that's resulted in the design. A portion of the homes on this site will serve educators and school district employees across 15 school districts on the West Valley side of Santa Clara County. We'll share that list in a bit. And a portion of homes for low-income families as well on the site. Our project is separated into 2 phases, totaling 250 total units, 7 buildings, and a density of 50 dwelling units per acre when both phases are complete. Based on the input throughout the community engagement process with both the neighbors and educators, we've worked to provide a 1-to-1 parking ratio that became a top priority amongst all the constituents. Phase 1 will provide 94 units, 94 new homes to educators and school district employees with a mix of townhome, 2-story townhome units, walk-up flats, and apartments. Phase 2 will focus on affordable housing for low-income families. That will have 156 new homes with a mix of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, studios, and apartments. Okay. This is an overview of the project timeline and process. We started community engagement back in spring of 2024 and have been on a long journey with all of our wonderful stakeholders. Today we are in the middle, we submitted our formal planning application in June of 2025, so just a couple of months ago. That was a big milestone for the project. We are currently in the middle of the entitlements process, working back and forth with the city of Cupertino now, and continuing our engagement with educational or informational updates like this meeting tonight. After entitlements approval, hopefully by the end of this year, early next, we'll move into the permitting and financing phase. That's where we get into a lot more details about the design and construction of the project, how we'll pay for the project, with a goal to hopefully start construction of phase 1 by the first quarter of 2027, and a goal to start occupancy around the start of 2029. Dialing in further, here's a summary of our project initiation and the community engagement process. As we mentioned before, the project vision was set by the County of Santa Clara and the city of Cupertino as a really strong foundation for the project. The county put through a competitive RFO, request for offer process. Santa Clara County awarded Eden and Fora this project in early 2024. From there, we launched into a multi-phased community engagement process, starting with the connections phase. That was spring and summer of last year. This phase is a little quieter. We're generally meeting one-on-one or in small groups with community stakeholders across a range of community groups, really just gathering input from the community on what's important here, what should we know, how should we design this community engagement process to best reach stakeholders. The listening phase happened summer of last year through the December of last year, and this is where we go out into the community. We tell them a little bit about the project, but we haven't really designed much. We're just mostly listening and gathering input and trying to understand what this community's values and priorities are. With those values and priorities, we layer those into the initial design ideas and move into the co-creation phase. That was fall of last year through spring of this year. And oops, the dates are long. Here we put forward a variety of different design exercises and really allow the community to provide valuable insights onto what will work and what won't work for the design, help us hone that in so that it really reflects the community and will best serve the future residents. From there, we headed into the accountability phase, which we're still in today. This is part of that phase, where we're sharing back with the community all that we've heard from them, how that's been incorporated and strengthened the design process. Here's a little snapshot of all the different types of events that we've had. Throughout the community engagement process, we've specifically focused our outreach to 3 different types of stakeholders: the wider West Valley community, if you will, school district community, including administrators, board of trustees members, educators, and school district staff, as well as the project neighbors have been really key stakeholders in this process. We've held a variety of different events, in-person, virtual, surveys, all different types throughout the different phases of the community engagement process. In summary, we've held over 30 interviews with a variety of stakeholders. We've had 10 pop-ups and workshops. We've had over 400 participants. We've sent out over 1,100 invitations. We've had 2,700 website views and over 280 people on our emailing list. So a lot far reach in this process. Now let's move into what we've heard and how it's informed the design. So for tonight, we only have time for a brief overview of all of our findings and the design impact. If you're interested in learning more, please visit our website, wolferoadhousing.com. You're able to download our findings and design impact report. This will give you the full overview of the process, all the different events, what we heard at each of the events, and how all of that summarized to inform the project. Throughout this process, we've gathered community feedback that has had significant influence on over 50 major design decisions in the project. Our findings and impact report in this presentation tonight is organized into major themes that have coalesced throughout the community engagement process. The first being program and population, the second, architectural design, then landscape design, fourth, amenities and aesthetics, fifth, secondary emergency access, sixth, biking and walking connections, and finally, policies that will govern the project. So starting with program and population, as we noted, the county's vision to serve started with a vision to serve 15 school districts across the West Valley of Santa Clara. This is the list here. We've spent time engaging with school district administrators, board of trustees members to provide the kind of leadership views and insights for this project. We've also spent a lot of time reaching out to educators and school district employees, the potential future residents of our project. Participation was not mandatory. However, we were able to connect with the majority of representatives from these different districts, and they've walked alongside us through this engagement process. Our initial outreach confirmed very quickly the assumptions that informed this project vision, that yes, indeed, finding affordable housing for teachers is very challenging, and that more affordable housing options is desperately needed. We heard that commutes are a huge issue, housing is too expensive, that many teachers are required to cohabitate, or have not great below market rate experience in other developments. One of our engagement questions to confirm was what, in addition to educators and school district employees, who else should be served by the housing on this site? And the community reinforced that they would like to serve low income or income qualified families, as well as young professionals entering the workforce. Based on our findings from school district leadership and educators, we confirmed that this project for the educator, school district employee levels will serve middle income to low income. So all the way up to 120% of the area median income levels, and then down from there. Traditional affordable housing eligibility levels cap at 80% of area median income and below. So this project is a little unique in that we want to make sure we are able to serve the school district and educator population that does often make just above the typical cap for affordable housing. So this project will be middle income housing as well as low income housing. I'll pass it off to Nicole.
Thank you, Sarah. So the next theme of community feedback that we're going to go over is the architectural design. So at the beginning phase of every project, that's our listening phase, we want to hear what the community cares about. So here's an example of all the great sticky notes we got from community members who interacted with our events. And so you can see things range all across the spectrum, from the landscape to safety to lighting to amenities. We had a key discussion with our educator group in particular, talking about what typologies of buildings they would be most interested in living in. And so apartments and townhomes were among the top votes for that. We asked the wider community about architectural preferences that included visual preference surveys and an exercise we like to call this or that, where we have folks vote on different features of different buildings that were favorites among the visual preference surveys. So we heard a lot about all neutral colors, and we also learned that traditional window frames were preferred. This project featured here is the Hamptons, and this won across the boards for the visual preference surveys, right across the 280. We heard a lot about site organization, building height, setbacks, and so this diagram here is talking through all of those considerations. So one of the first things we learned from the project neighbors is that the Portal neighbors didn't want too much building frontage right up against their property line. And so that first diagram represents that. And we also learned that height was okay, but not right up against the neighborhood. And so we incorporated a large setback and then took the buildings at the tight end of the site, and we made those shorter and then boosted it up when it gets closer to the scale of the proposed rise buildings. And so it really is this cascade that then meets the scale of the neighborhood. So we'll take a look at the narrowest part of the site, the northern part of the site here. This is as you're getting off the 280 off-ramp. So these are 3-story townhome buildings that are organized around smaller community spaces, such as a family dining area, some outdoor games, and have nice walk-up style apartments. They're flats on the ground floor and townhomes above, and there's a children's play area. And then this is really the heart of this project. So we used the buildings themselves to shield a really lush, vibrant central courtyard away from the parking, away from the noise of the highway. And so this area is some of the townhomes, but then it scales up to the taller apartment buildings and achieves a lot of our density. And then in the very corner of the site, we have a little dog park area. But we'll get more into the courtyard shortly. This is a rendering from kind of across where the Hyatt is. And so this really shows the building scaling up towards the proposed rise building, but also recognizing that this is going to be kind of a gateway into Cupertino. We heard that a lot from community engagement participants, that you do come over the highway there from North Wolfe Road, and it is going to be kind of the welcoming gateway into what's becoming kind of a downtown feeling area of the city. And then we have this amazing amenity that is being built by the city. It's the Tamianinu Trail, and this is to complete the loop trail around the entire city of Cupertino. And so this section runs along the 280 and will run along our site. And so we paid a lot of attention to what this experience would be, locating a lot of ground floor units to promote eyes on the street here. We have wayfinding elements and just, murals that kind of add to the experience, plantings that add to the experience, and really are just so excited to have this as an amenity on our site. We paid a lot of attention to the Portal neighbors and had a lot of meetings with them about their values and what they wanted to see with this development. So this rendering really shows how that scaling down towards the neighborhood obscures that view and that visual impact for them. And then also the preservation of the redwood trees has been really important. And so you can see here that the redwood trees, they're very tall, and so they also further obscure that view. And then also the wall, the sound wall along that property line has been really important. Okay, the next community rooted value is landscape design, so we'll get into that some more. So as I noted, the preserving the trees is a huge value to the community. Unfortunately, a lot of the trees are not in good shape, but something we did early on as soon as we learned how important these trees were was we reached out to the current property owner and had that conversation about the irrigation to make sure that these trees would remain healthy before the start of our construction. And we're doing our very best to preserve as many of them along the property line that we can. We had the educators weigh in on what they wanted their courtyard spaces to feel like. So would they rather have a large courtyard space with a lot of uses within it, or a series of smaller courtyards on different levels? And the top answer was actually a mix of both. We also got a lot of feedback from all stakeholder groups about the landscape design, the look and feel, what amenities were important. So having organic, cozy, natural, warm materials were all top preferences from the community. Here are some of the favorite outdoor amenities. So most groups voted for play areas. We got votes for open turf space. Educators really wanted to see an outdoor kitchen and barbecue. Outdoor plaza was one of the top winners. And so here's a rendering of that heart of the campus, that large courtyard. And so instead of it being one big courtyard, we have it on 2 levels. And you can see there's open turf patio space. There's the ability to look out from some of the townhome units and their entryways. It's going to be a really great space that's protected from the highway and the parking area, and be a space that unites the entire campus of 7 buildings. Here are some of the townhomes at the end of the site. So one of the things we tried to incorporate here was, that sense of a front entry to your home and having eyes overlooking the outdoor spaces, knowing that this is going to be a family development as well. And you can see some of the amenities in the foreground. This area has a play yard, but then there's also family dining areas kind of tucked in the nooks between the buildings. And then we have amenities and aesthetics. So amenities for within the apartments, we had that discussion with our educator advisory group. We had a lot of competing interest during our listening phase. And so we said, okay, there's a lot here. What's most important? And in-unit laundry was the overwhelming priority. And that's understandable among educators. They don't have a lot of time. And so making sure they have that convenience was of top priority. And then we also had this conversation with the educators about what amenities go inside the buildings, and community rooms, a fitness and yoga room, storage, and multi-purpose spaces were the top priorities. So we've received a lot of great feedback from amenities from the wider community and educators, and we have been able to incorporate as many as possible on this. We're really excited about all of the future landscape activities that can be programmed into this space and create a really vibrant site for residents. Okay, I'll pass it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Nicole. The next community-rooted value that we've spent a lot of time talking about, it's a really important issue, is secondary emergency access. So just to provide a little background, as we noted before, the city has designated this site for a 50 dwelling unit per acre density minimum. That means a minimum of 250 homes on the site. The state fire code requires 2 separate means of emergency access for any residential development over, this says 30 units. It's actually, we've updated, it's actually 100 units to ensure the safety of residents. So that when this project is fully built out at 250 units, we will need 2 separate and distinct emergency access points for the fire department to properly respond to any emergencies on the site. As of right now, we have one confirmed access point, our primary access point for both emergency vehicles and resident vehicles to the site. That's from Perimeter Road, connects back out to Stevens Creek, and will connect out to Wolfe Road once the Rise development is built out a bit more. It did leave us with deficient of a second emergency access, though, unfortunately. The tunnel that goes under, the portion of perimeter road that tunnels under Wolfe Road is only 10 foot clear. Fire trucks need 13'6" clear in height in order to drive under, so that 2A option is not a viable way for emergency vehicles to get onto site. So we are focused on 3 potential options, and they are listed in priority based on community's input. The first preference would be option 2B. This is a secondary emergency access point from Wolfe Road into our site to connect to the fire access loop throughout the site. The complication with this access point is that this would go through the Caltrans right-of-way adjacent to the I-280 off-ramp. And so we are in talks and in process of working through a request for access from Caltrans through that right-of-way. We've been working very hard and to work through that process with Caltrans, but it is a process and we are still in the middle of that. The second option is potentially a secondary access through the rise, although that's very much still in process. And then the kind of final last worst case scenario option would be a secondary emergency access point from Auburn Drive through the Portal neighborhood. We've heard a lot of concern about this option from the neighbors and are doing our very, very best to avoid needing that option. If it is determined as the only viable path forward, that would be an emergency only gate. It would be a solid gate that remains locked and closed at all times, and only the fire department would have access to the key to open it in case of an emergency. This is a small snippet of the engagement we've gathered around the secondary emergency access, around the wall, the gate, and just we've heard very clearly that this is not an ideal scenario. And so again, we are working very hard to unlock one of the other secondary emergency access options. The next community rooted value is biking and walking connections. Some of our early engagement, we heard that there would be interest for a connection from the Portal neighborhood through our site to the new Tamiana New Trail that'll be running on the eastern side of our property. We've received a number of emails in support of a bike pedestrian connection. We've also there's also been a petition against a pedestrian bike connection from the Portal neighborhood to the Tamiana Trail, and that was presented to the City Council in March of this year. So a lot of input from the community on both sides of this issue. And ultimately, our project does not rely on a bike pedestrian connection through the wall, so we are not including that for the time being. If the public wants to come to our forthcoming planning commission hearings and make their case one way or the other for this connection, it'll be the city council or the planning commission or city council's option to direct us one way or the other on this issue. Hold on just one moment.
So just a reminder, folks, we'll be doing questions in a few minutes according to the 7 categories, and I'll share those as Architects Fora finishes.
Thanks, Alex. Sorry, it's evening and I have children. Okay, community values. The last section we'll speak on is policies. These are future policies to govern the development once it's constructed and occupied. We spent a lot of time talking through these with school district leadership, educators, and school district employees. So some of the topics that we've covered and set kind of initial goals or parameters around is that the populations most in need of affordable middle-income housing are young and new teachers, as well as classified staff. And so our goal is to attract or to help school districts attract and retain these types of employees with affordable housing options. Typically, those demographics include singles, couples, teachers that roommate together. Some of the classified staff do have more larger families, so the homes that will serve this population span the different unit sizes to serve this the span of family types, household types. And again, we talked about incomes, and that has helped us hone in on the area median income qualified brackets for the educator and school district housing. This chart, I won't get into the details of it, but this again just breaks down the income levels that our future residents will likely fall under for a variety of household sizes and what that translates to in terms of their annual income. Eden Housing provides beautiful resident services to all the projects that they develop. This project will be no exception. So they will be building out a full spectrum of resident support services on site, providing education, technology access, economic empowerment, health and wellness programs, and community engagement throughout the duration of the operation of the development. Eden and Fora both are committed to excellence and sustainability. The buildings we build will hopefully be around for a very, very long time. And so we want to do right by our natural world, restoring habitats, being efficient with our energy usage and water usage, and building really restorative, healthy communities. Next steps in Q&A. So just revisiting community engagement, we're in the accountability phase. And I'm so sorry, I neglected to acknowledge this earlier, but we wanted to say that Cupertino for All has been a part of our engagement process all the way through. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Your leadership team met with us back in the connections phase and our interviews, and a number of your members have participated in the listening, co-creation, and accountability events. We just want to say thank you for being a part of this and being a part of the event tonight. Again, overall process and timeline, we can answer any questions related to this. And if you'd like to stay up to date on the project, if you aren't already, please join our interest mailing list. You can access that on our website, wolferoadhousing.com, and you can email us at info@wolferoadhousing.com. Okay, pause there.
Thanks, Sarah. Great job, Eden and Architects Fora. So if you haven't been through this process yet, we're going to offer opportunity to ask questions according to the 7 categories that we're then going to score the project on. So let me put the first category in the chat function. It's community, and you can find these all on our website that are also put in the chat function right now. So does anyone have any questions for the development team about the community engagement process that they've gone through, who they've talked to, what they've heard? Obviously, you can see that this is a specialty of Architects and Engage Fora. We got a lot of slides on that. Suffice it to say, does anyone have any questions? Let's open the floor.
I have a quick clarifying question. You did a great job with the community engagement. So is my understanding at the end of Auburn Road, there's like an actual like big, huge wall, like concrete wall at the end of it, or what's happening there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Daphne. Yeah, so when the Valco Mall was built, it's our understanding there was an agreement to build a sound wall. It's an 8-foot high CMU concrete masonry unit wall that provides some of the sound and just physical barrier between what was the mall and the single family neighborhood next door. And so a lot of our discussions about maintaining that wall, even with these new developments in place of Valco Mall.
Got it. Thanks.
Jean, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. If I might comment about that wall, I've been down there. It's about a 7, maybe, I don't know if it's 8 feet tall. It's a very convenient spot to have an emergency access. The problem is you have a group of primarily senior, long-term residents who are very protective of that wall. It would be far more cost effective to, make some sort of emergency access through there. But it's very contentious.
That's a great summary. Yes. It has been contentious at all of our community meetings.
Other community engagement questions from Cupertino for All or Catalyze SV members? Okay, so hopefully that means folks are ready to score the category based on the scale of 1 to 5 on community engagement. So let's go to our next category, vibrancy. You can see the description in the chat function. If anyone needs us to read it out, let me know. What are questions people have about the vibrancy of the development as proposed?
Where is the nearest grocery store to the neighborhood?
Great question. Let me go back to my site amenity map. I know there's a Safeway nearby because I've been to it.
I think there's a small market right on Stevens Creek as well.
Look further, Ranch 99 on the other side of the freeway.
Ah, yes, on the other, oh yeah, right across on the other side of the freeway, you're right. Yeah, so they're probably just beyond the half-mile radius, but probably within a mile radius of the site.
Thank you.
And we have the Cupertino Market is the one that's right off Stevens Creek.
And can you repeat what you said about the bike path and people not wanting access to the bike path? Can you just, I just wasn't, so people from the West Portal neighborhood would not be able to access the bike path through that area? Is that what it was?
It looks like somebody's bringing up a map, but while we do that, the wall and then the bike ped path are often conflated because one, there's two different reasons you could perforate that wall, right? There's the emergency vehicle access, which is its own technical need that we have, but then there's also just bike and ped connections. And so there was a request for there to be a way to get through that wall just to create more connectivity in the neighborhood. But obviously the Portal neighborhood itself doesn't want the wall open for any reason, emergency vehicles or bikes and peds. But we are going to have and this is where I will turn it back over to the architects to talk about the connections with the wider bike paths in the neighborhood.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, it's a little hard to read, but along the left side of our property line is a trail, and this is a bike pedestrian trail. It's part of the city of Cupertino and broader communities plan to build out the Tamian and New Trail. It's a continuation of the Stevens Creek Trail further north in the county. This will basically follow, for this section, it'll follow along 280 north of our site and then come along through our site and then go under Wolfe Road to go east into further into Cupertino. And so our section will be built out concurrent with this housing development. There will be entrances into the Portal neighborhood from the Tamian New Trail. They're just further north and to the west off the site plans. You can download and find more information about the full build out of the Tamian New Trail on the city's website. But our project will include this section of the trail as well as a trailhead node where Perimeter Road, kind of at the southeastern corner of our site, where Perimeter Road, where it will meet Perimeter Road and then go underneath Wolfe Road to continue on. Okay. There'll also be an access point out to Wolfe Road at Wolfe Road elevation.
And Sarah, Nicole put the link to the city's plan for that trail in the chat. So that's there.
Great, thank you for that question. So again, we're taking questions, hopefully ideally on vibrancy. After vibrancy, then we'll get into questions on transportation, then environmental sustainability, then the intensity zoning of the project, then affordability, then the legacy of this site. So if folks are able to ask more questions about vibrancy now, that would be great. One of which could be around ground floor activation. Can you all talk a little bit more about what the ground floor of the buildings will look like? Will there be any space for nonprofits, community rooms, retail, anything like that?
You want to take this one, Nicole?
Sure. Yeah. So all of both phases require community rooms. We've also incorporated flexible multi-purpose spaces along the ground floor, offices, lobbies, mailrooms, bike rooms are celebrated along the frontage. Pretty much all the amenities that we can put at the frontage we do for the community. We really like to have that indoor-outdoor ability for a community room to expand so that it can serve the residents and with greater flexibility, host large gatherings. We do not have a nonprofit or a leasing space in this property, but we do have a lot of resident amenities along the ground floor. And then we have all of the ground floor units lining that trail and a lot of the ground floor across the property.
Yeah, with this site being tucked up away from or beyond the Rise is building out a lot of the mixed use office retail hubs that will bring vibrancy to this area, and our residents will be able to participate in those features.
Something we heard from the 19800 project just down the street is that we heard this from the Chamber of Commerce actually, but that they're kind of waiting on the Rise for all of those businesses to be activated and services to be activated, waiting on the residential density to be built up. They kind of built it in anticipation.
How close is this? Is this within the half a mile of Main Street, Cupertino?
It's pretty close. I don't know if it's half a mile.
Yeah, let me double check.
If you do it as a straight line, it's 2,200. So it is
Yeah, it actually
not walking, but
yeah, it is within a half mile as the crow flies radius.
actually it might be walking distance, half mile as well.
Great question, Jean.
I have a question. Did any of the community members mention or people who might be interested about a garden for the residents there? Like a community garden space?
Yeah, so we asked the educator population if that would be something they'd be interested in, but a lot of the other amenities were more priority for them than the garden beds. It didn't seem like they really were interested in using them. We find those to be the most popular with our senior populations when we build for those populations, but since this is large family and young educators, it didn't seem as important.
Okay, thank you.
I think that Cupertino Village, right across the freeway, well, not easy access, but it is an easy walk across the freeway, and that's got just tons of mainly Chinese oriented, but just tons of shops and things like that. I think that should be mentioned at least as a potential amenity for the people in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, we were overwhelmed by how many great amenities there are in the community with all the different plazas and shopping centers, and yeah, it's a great site.
Let me follow up on that comment. They're going to be rebuilding the bridge over 280, which will make it much more pedestrian friendly as well as bicycle friendly. So I think the Cupertino.
Oh, you somehow muted yourself.
Jean, you muted yourself mid-sentence.
Sorry, what was I saying? That bridge is going to be rebuilt to be more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. I don't know what the timeline is.
Yeah, we've been in discussions with the VTA that's the lead organization on that project. And I believe it's supposed to start construction within the year and be a 2 to 3 year construction project. But yes, Jean, you're exactly right. It's meant to provide better better pedestrian walkways and bicycle paths separated from vehicular traffic. So that will be great.
Sarah,
Yeah,
Nicole. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Sarah, Nicole, the main space you talked about on the campus for gathering, is that permeable, i.e., is it open to the larger community, or is it only open to some of the buildings? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So the Tammy and the New Trail will be open to the broader public. Anybody will be able to walk alongside that. We have oriented a lot of the buildings along the side of that trail to provide a natural kind of buffer to activate the trail with eyes facing that way, but also to provide some transition between the general public accessible areas and the resident specific areas. So the central courtyard at the heart of the site will be for residents only, just to provide a safe and secure place for them to build community within the development.
And that's for all the buildings on the site, all the residents who will live there, they'll share that courtyard. And we've paid a lot of attention. So that rendering from the trail with those murals on it, on either side of the building, that's kind of the gateway into that from the 3 buildings to the north of the site. So really making sure that the folks at the northern end of the site also know that that is their space and that, yeah, here it is. So this mural area plays 2 roles, really. It's really to add visual interest to this and delight to the trail, but also to pull residents who live kind of page in front of us in through building 4 here into that central courtyard.
So is it like every resident in the entire 7 building complex will get like a fob or a code to get into that courtyard?
No, there's no gate for the residents to get in from there. I believe we'll have parking gates.
Yeah, yeah. The fence shown here is just to provide a threshold between the public Tammy and the New Trail and the residential focused site areas. But residents, once they're on site, will be able to roam freely without access control issues.
But isn't it more open with townhomes and flats? That's what I'm confused about.
Can you restate your question, Alex? Maybe we're just not misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Let's look at a site plan. I think he's asking like how you get on, where the access controls are.
I know that sometimes our members like to see the amenities available to the community. Sometimes they don't make sense. So that's what I'm kind of getting at here.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is that the El Portal community doesn't want anything to do with it. They want that wall. I was at one of the meetings, and the El Portal community just says, we don't want to know anything about it. Make it disappear. and
I think I was at that same meeting, sir. Yes.
From everything else, and from everywhere else, you're really, unless you're on a bicycle, it's almost impossible to get to that community. Unless you're a resident.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So Sarah, I guess maybe, or Nicole, if you could sort of walk us in if you're a resident and maybe with your cursor, show us how you get in, where you park your car, et cetera. So talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go back to the trail.
Awesome. Can you see my cursor when I move it?
Yep.
Okay, great. So residents' main vehicular entrance to the site will be at the south west corner here. They'll drive in, and residents in phase 1, the educator school district phase, will be able to park in a surface parking. There's additional parking up here by the northern 3 buildings. So they can park their car or bike into the site as well, and then circulate to their home in any of these 3 northern buildings, this building 4 right in the middle of the site, and then building 5 kind of on the western side of the central courtyard. So the only gate they'll go through is that vehicular gate or the pedestrian gate next to it. And then otherwise they're inside the site roaming freely about. Phase 2 is building 6, which is kind of this bent building on the left here, and then the L-shaped building along the south here. Residents here will be able to park in the 2-story parking garage that sits under building 7, and then go up to their units in the building above or across to their unit in building 6. And again, once they've driven or biked into the site, they'll have free access to all the upper level courtyard, the lower level courtyard, and the central courtyard space, and then throughout the site. The Tamiami Trail is along the the right of the site here on the east, and there'll be fences and gates between the small openings between buildings, again, just to provide a little bit of buffer between where the public is able to access and where the residents will have their private space for community building internally. I should say the dog park is intentionally in the public realm at the southeast corner of the site here, and that's intended to provide an amenity to the trail users as well as the neighborhood around the site, as well as the residents.
Do you have like a plant list for like what you're going to use for the trail? Like a lot of like oak woodland species and like I guess maybe like wildflowers too.
Hi, Sandana. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes, our full formal planning application has a robust plant list of native species, respectful species. I believe that is available at the Cupertino Planning Department for public access.
Any other questions on vibrancy before we go to transportation? Okay, I'm putting transportation in the chat function. This is in essence talking about other ways of getting around besides individual owned cars and individually driven cars. So do folks have any questions about that? Has the project...
My usual question, what is your access for rideshare?
That is a great question, and one we are wrestling with currently and striving to improve. Yeah, so right now the vehicular access is right at the edge of the site, and so there's not a great opportunity for rideshare vehicles to come and drop off or pick up, or delivery vehicles, and so we're actually reworking the part of the parking garage under building 7 to have some guest and drop off spaces to provide a better opportunity for rideshare pickup and drop off and deliveries.
That's good.
Yeah, it's the way we live now, so we need to accommodate for it.
Yes.
I think you said there's a 1-to-1 parking ratio, so there's 250 parking spaces. Is that what you're planning for? How many bike parking, or how much bike access how much bike storage do you have?
Nicole, I know we're at least 1-to-1. We might be higher than 1-to-1.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit higher than 1-to-1, and that's a mix of different bike parking solutions. So, of course, on the ground, we have the e-bike chargers, we have staples that, cater to cargo bikes, tricycles, and then we have more high efficiency storage in the form of Darrow Deckers are our preferred product because they do get that 2-level stack, but have the lift assist so that people don't have to really lift their bikes up. It really takes the load. And so really providing all those storage options for a wide range of bikes and all the types of bikes that exist.
That's great.
Sarah, my read of your submittal was 125 bicycle parking spaces. Is that...
Let me double check while we continue on. That seems lower, but let me double check.
Okay, great. Yeah, what I'm going off of, y'all, is just this document right here from Sarah, and it says 125 total spaces.
Oh, I thought we were. I actually haven't been on the design of the project in a while. Maybe I shouldn't have quoted.
Give me a second to just review a little more closely.
Okay. Got it. So Daphne will come back to that question If anyone wants to answer Phillips in the chat function, feel free. Or because someone else may also know that. Looks like Yvonne has a question. Yvonne, you want to take yourself off mute?
My fingers don't work. I had two kids that rode bikes to school every day. And that in our neighborhood, they had to go up Rainbow, which starts out as this big wide street, and then it gets into this narrow street. And honestly, I don't think some of those houses should have been built there because there's no buffer between the sidewalk and the road. And so I'm wondering in this plan, if you're a little kid on a bike, do you have to go the same adjacent to the cars down that perimeter way, or how do you get to school on a bicycle if you're a little kid?
That's a great question. If in the zoning for this site, as well as the rise within the Cupertino School District, is still in the works because of the number of new homes we'll be adding here. If they are zoned to Collins Elementary and, oh, Nicole, do you remember the junior high school name?
LP Collins and Lawson.
Lawson, thank you. Those are both in the Portal neighborhood west of our site. So the best path for children that live at this development will be to take the Tamiananu Trail up north around the Portal neighborhood and then down at the entry into the Portal neighborhood a little bit further along the trail.
But you said that Tamian Trail is closed. It's not going to be open to that development.
Oh, it's just not going to be, there's not going to be an opening from our site to the Portal neighborhood, but there is an opening from the Tamiananu Trail to the Portal neighborhood, just about, I think it's half a mile up the trail from our site.
So, okay, walk me through how you get from an apartment in there. You can't go through the wall because we're not gonna tear down the wall. So you have to go around the outside to go west.
Yeah, so it would be the protected bike lane that is the future Tamianinu Trail. And then there's going to be an opening at North Blaney, and then they would take North Blaney down, and that takes you right to LP Collins or right to Lawson. And so
it's on the northern.
Yeah.
Right there, there's a pedestrian or a bicycle pedestrian
yeah,
opening?
by the time this is built, the Tamianinu Trail should be complete, and so it wraps along the 280 off ramp and then along 280, and it's a protected pedestrian and bike lane, and so most of the route would be away from cars, and then North Blaney.
But you can access that from the development.
Yes.
There's no fence or barrier on the northern side.
Great question. Yeah, children's safety is top priority. Alex, I was able to check on the bike parking. So the column you were looking at with the 125 is the required number of bike parking spaces. The next column over is the proposed. So we are proposing 279 total bike parking spaces. So over the 1-to-1 ratio.
And then as for the closest transit lines, is it a rapid line, Sarah, along Stevens Creek? And then a frequent along Wolfe, I believe.
Yeah, bus lines, correct. And I believe there's conversations with some of the Cupertino shuttles about potentially adding stops within adjacent to this development to further help with public transit rideshare opportunities for residents.
And then related to Jean's comment about North Wolfe Road being that bridge and everything being oriented more towards pedestrians and cyclists, I'm sure you all saw that the Stevens Creek Bikeway has begun construction. So that's a huge milestone, and that'll be great for our residents.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah, for correcting me. Glad we got that right. Thanks to you. How about transit passes? A lot of affordable housing residents benefit from transit passes. It's something our members often like to see. Is that something under consideration by Eden on this project?
I mean, it's always under consideration, but it's not included at this moment, no.
Okay. Any other transportation questions before we move on to sustainability? Okay, let's go on to sustainability, our fourth category. You talked a little bit about it generally, sir. Did you want to talk more about if you're going for a certification and what that might be?
Sure, yeah. So the city of Cupertino's reach code, energy reach code, requires certification through the Green Point rating system. It's a system that we work with often, Eden works with often. And so we're well attuned to complying with the requirements of that certification and often reach their gold and platinum levels. In affordable housing, we're always looking for providing the most energy efficient, water efficient systems to our residents to help keep their ongoing utility costs as low as possible. So we use high efficiency HVAC system and ventilation systems that have low energy usage, very efficient lighting to keep energy costs low, efficient water features to reduce water usage, as well as irrigation usage on the site. We haven't gotten to this level of development, but likely we will include a good amount of photovoltaic energy generation on site. That's pretty typical in our projects to offset at least the house load energy usage within the site. Let's see, we'll have electric vehicle parking per the state's ever increasing goals for electrical vehicle charging. And yeah, as we talked about, a lot of the alternatives to vehicular transit options that will be available to residents, bikes, parking, bikes, public transportation, walking. Anything else?
A lot of our sustainability comes in, our landscape designers will specify native drought tolerant plantings, plantings that, encourage pollinator habitat restoration. We're very careful in our material selections. And we're, as a firm, also signatories of the AIA 2030 commitment, which is a commitment to reduce the energy loads of all our buildings. So on the sustainability slide that we shared that highlighted Mitchell Park, during design, we have an estimated energy reduction of about 82%. And by 2030, the goal is for all buildings to be at 80%. So it was a really exciting project to do with Eden. And we'll see if it actually is 82%, but because that is a, conceptual projection, but we really hope that it is fully that.
Yeah, and just, corporately, our philosophy is to be as sustainable as possible for lots of reasons. Obviously, we think stewardship of resources for the future is important, but also we never sell our projects, so we're going to be a long-term owner. So we're very keen on having buildings that operate well and cost efficiently, durable materials so that we don't have to replace them. So we think about all of those things too, because every dollar that we save, we can make sure that we're able to, deliver more services to our residents and make sure we keep the building as affordable as possible. So that's just kind of part of our corporate DNA.
Sarah, did we hear you say that there's going to be solar panels on some of the roofs?
Yes, that will likely be a part of the design as well. We just haven't gotten to that level of development at this point.
Yeah, it's common for at least 90% of Eden's common area loads to be powered by renewables.
Yeah, building 7 has a very large parapet roof area with the intention of putting a great PV array up there.
Any thoughts about bird safe glass in the windows?
Yvonne, it's like you've been in our internal team meetings. We've been talking a lot about bird safe place. Yeah, the city of Cupertino has admirable bird safe glazing requirements, and so we are pouring through those requirements and recommendations right now and working to comply with as many of them as possible, using strategies like vertical and horizontal muttons on our windows, insect screens on any of the operable partitions, and potentially layering in some fritted glazing for the limited areas where we have larger swaths of glazing on some of the buildings.
Does everyone have all the information they need to score this project on the sustainability category?
This is Ryan. I just had a quick question. I heard you point rated gold and platinum. Which level was this project going to try to attain?
So we'll be required to meet Green Point rated certification, and we haven't gotten to the level of actually scoring the project. That'll come in further development of the design. However, typically our projects are in the gold to platinum certification level.
Okay. And in this area of sustainability, being so close to Interstate 280, I assume the building will have extra thick glass, right?
For
Windows.
acoustics. Yes,
Acoustics.
exactly. Yeah, we're well versed at working on sites right adjacent to freeways. That's often where affordable housing opportunities present themselves. So yes, we will have very robust exterior wall assemblies and glazing, particularly on the facades facing the highway, to mitigate any noise disturbances. I believe there's a pretty restrictive rating for noise within a unit, and so we will provide the envelope that'll meet that compliance decibel reduction level inside the units.
Blanca, did you have a question? We've got you off mute here. Okay, maybe not. Okay, any other sustainability questions? We're almost there. Thanks for Eden for your patience. Okay, our fifth category is intensity zoning. Do we think the project has built to the max?
No question, thank you.
Any questions about density zoning?
No question.
So the
Yeah,
max.
I had a question on intensity. I saw at the beginning of the discussion, you're attaining, what is it, 50 dB per acre? Is that based on the underlying zoning? Is that based on a density bonus? What
Yeah, great
what are you guys using?
So the city of Cupertino designated this site as a housing priority site in their housing element update last year, earlier this year. And so the zoning through that process was updated to a minimum of 15 dwelling units per acre. Initially, we were hoping to be a little higher than the minimum, but due to the shape of the site, the various constraints in terms of the amenities, including the trail, and just the input we gathered from the various stakeholder groups, we have some lower density portions of the site and then scaling up to higher density. And so we've found a happy medium right at that 50 dwelling unit per acre.
Is there any ability to, so there's no ability to increase density? That's kind of the maximum that makes sense for the site?
That's where we've landed
Yeah.
at right now, yeah.
I noticed this site's pretty close to Stevens Creek. There's high frequency bus service along Stevens Creek. Is there a major transit stop on one of those stations that I believe allows for unlimited density, right?
I don't think we have a transit line that meets the high
Major
quality
transit
transit
stop.
stop. In all honesty, like adding more density to the site is not a limiting, like the density maximum for the site is far higher than we'd be able to achieve.
I see. Okay.
We are utilizing state density bonus for other benefits that that legislation provides, but not for increased density at this point.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions about intensity or zoning? Okay, let's go to our sixth category, affordability. This is basically how affordable is the housing. And remember, we've heard that it's 120% of the AMI or below for the educator portion of the housing. And they've proposed 80% of the AMI or below for the building 6 and 7 as part of phase 2, if I got that right.
Actually, Sarah, can you show that slide again? I think the educator housing at this point we're contemplating up to maybe even 140. But that's all still a little bit in progress. But yes, it will all be income restricted.
And
Oh dear.
and Andrea and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the income targeting for phase one is going to be based off of the need that you see in the educator community. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're working, talking with various school districts and in the area because, of course, tax credit housing or the low income housing, a lot of educators earn too much. So we're really trying to target the workforce and educator part to be more inclusive of a higher AMI household. So we're looking kind of in this range, and it'll be dialed more in as we complete that research on, where it needs to be in order to serve the most educators in the area.
Okay, so what we're hearing, y'all, is that they haven't made a final decision on the AMI and affordability levels. Any other questions about affordability?
This
But
commission's
100%, 100% of it is income restricted. So carry on.
I have a question. This is Ava. When you said, what is the wage slash salary threshold? I guess I can't see it on here.
Yeah, we're showing like the range. So the yellow band is more for the middle income or the educator workforce housing. So if you were a one-person household, the highest we're looking at the moment is 140% of AMI. A one-person household, that's 180,000. But for 120%, that's 154. The 100% is 129. If you jump forward to a four-person household, that ranges from almost 260 to 184.
Is that before or after? I don't know how AMI is calculated, before or after taxes.
I believe that that's before. That's sort of your gross income.
Okay, so yeah, that definitely could, depending on the contracts, first year teachers, but there's also paras and other jobs in the school district that would fall underneath 51,000.
Yeah, so I think that's where we're kind of really trying to get a little bit more granular for the educator housing. So make sure that we kind of hit that top band, but also probably a little bit lower. But then of course the traditional tax credit housing too, there'll be if there's a Venn diagram, there'll be an overlap probably between both of them. Because in a traditional tax credit execution, we can have some households up to 80% AMI. As long as the overall affordability is 60% or below. So you could probably see some
Yes,
overlap between the two buildings.
definitely. If it's 60% or below, you are looking at teachers, well, particularly teachers zero from year 1 to year 5. All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Ava. Any other questions about affordability before we go on to the last category, legacy? And there may not be many questions or even a score about legacy, but it is a category. Sometimes we score it, sometimes we don't. Any questions about the legacy of this site, the neighborhood, the city, the region, relevant to the design of this development?
I think the legacy of that site is there used to be the farmer's market there on Friday morning.
Yvonne, you're the first person that's brought that up. We didn't know that. That's super cool.
And we're doing everything we can to save those trees that are there because they've been there a while.
Okay, we've kept our team on pretty long, so let's do a last call for any question you have about the project from CFA or CSV members so that you are ready to score the project.
I
I have
have
like go ahead, whoever. Go ahead, Ava.
Oh, yeah, so my question is, for the wall currently, you all aren't planning on opening the wall for the residents, mainly I'm concerned about the access to the nearby elementary school, Collins. Um, when is the latest for that decision to be reversed? That is given if we have a majority of council that is more friendly.
Yeah, thanks, Ava. We spoke about this briefly before, but just to reiterate, currently we're not showing a pedestrian bike connection through the wall, as it's not deemed required for this project. However, we know there's a lot of interest on both sides of that equation. And so we will be going to the planning commission throughout at the end of our entitlements process, and we presume at that meeting there'll be a lot of public input on this topic, and we'll be looking to the planning commissioners to provide direction to our team on whether or not connection should be incorporated.
When is an anticipatory date for that?
Oh gosh, I hope before the end of the year, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
If you sign up on our website, you'll get those kinds of announcements or reminders of when we're going to be in public meetings.
Ava signed up. We've got her.
I think Daphne had a question.
I have a quick question, not necessarily related to scoring, but it's great that you're partnering with so many school districts. So I assume there is a understood need for this housing, like it would be filled immediately if it were open tomorrow, that there would be a lot of people who would want to move in, correct?
Yeah, we heard from most of the educators who joined our workshops that they'd be interested in living here themselves. Like they cited location as the number one reason. And their challenges were, it's too expensive, the commutes are too long. This site's a great commuter site being right off the 280. So, and then all the amenities that are there. So we've definitely heard through and through that this is needed. We've heard it from the school district leadership teams. And also that brings up a great point. Like everyone from the wider community, the Portel neighborhood too, deeply, deeply value education. And so this project has seen a lot of great support, especially in that educator housing piece. The community's been very, even with some of the snaggles that we've faced with this wall topic, that everyone's very, very excited about this project and the value it brings.
But that is also why we're spending a little bit more time digging into like income and understanding that to make sure that we hit the right targets there so that we do serve the folks who've been participating and the school districts that we've been talking to.
Yeah, we got a lot of great data from them to sift through.
Yeah.
Any final questions for any member of our project team from Cupertino for All or Catalyze SV members? Well, if folks wouldn't mind going off mute and giving a round of applause to our project team for their presentation. Thank you so, so much. We hope
Yay!
Eden and Fora and the county can go back to their family and food and a fun rest of your night. So thank you all so much. I will get back to you on behalf of CFA and CSV very shortly, hopefully within the next 2 days. So now the project team's going to jump off the Zoom and go about
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Great to see you all.